I'm going to call to order the Planning Commission meeting of March 16th, 2023. And can I have
Roll call.
roll call?
Okay. Pfeffer,
Here.
Fragoso,
Here.
Jansen,
Here.
Kelly,
Here.
Newton,
Hey, I'm here. Sorry.
okay, Chair Swift.
Here. There she is.
There she is.
So now I'm going to call for approval of the agenda. And before I do that, I wanted to recommend that we switch items 2 and 1 on the agenda. Item 2 is 22 Wood Lane. The applicants are here. I think that would be a potentially easier application to get through in that way that they can do that and go home. So,
Swift, can I make a little announcement before you get into that?
yes, you can. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that.
So I just wanted everybody to know that I'm not able to attend the Planning Commission meeting tonight because I'm away from Fairfax taking care of my elderly parents. And so I'm going to be participating by Zoom for Just Cause under the California Government Code provisions after, the pandemic rules have gone away. So thanks.
And Commissioner Newton, can I just have you mention whether you have anyone in the room with you over the age of 17?
The dachshund is 15 and the other dog is only 9. So no, it's just the 3 of us.
It's only the 2-legged ones we want to know about.
Okay.
Thank you. So that would be my suggestion on changing the order on the agenda. Does anyone else have any comments on the agenda?
I move that we accept the agenda with the changes proposed by the chair.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Call the roll. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Fragoso.
Here?
Okay. Jansen,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Newton,
Bye.
Chair Swift.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to read the meeting protocol. The chair shall maintain order at the meetings in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, and the commission has responsibility to be a model of respectful behavior in order to encourage community participation and citizen input at commission meetings. The commission and the audience are expected to refrain from using profane language and/or ridiculing the character or motive of commission members, staff, or members of the public, and to maintain the standards of tolerance and civility. Public comments on non-agenda items. Anyone wishing to address the commission on matters not on tonight's agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the commission, must do so by email, in person, or via Zoom. Presentations will be limited to 3 minutes or as otherwise established by the commission chair. And I'm going to ask for public open time. Anyone in the Zoom? Tamara?
I do not see any hands raised, but I'll just take a moment to remind people that now is the time to raise your hand, and you use the raise hand icon if you're using the Zoom application, or *9 if you're calling on the telephone. And having announced that, I still see no hands raised.
Thank you. I'm going to close public comment, public open time. And there's no items on the consent calendar. So would you like to introduce our contract planner?
Yes, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our new contract planner from Four Leaf Incorporated, Daniel Hortert. He goes by Dan. And he's here to help us with the other consultant to get to the completion of the housing element and the safety element as soon as we can. I don't know, Dan, did you want to say hi? Yep.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me? So she said I'm Dan. I'm the Director of Planning at Four Leaf Inc. We're located in Pleasanton. My goal is to assist Diet and Bhatia to get this housing element over the finish line as quickly as possible. And then any other tasks that the town manager might have me do, I'm available for as well. So with that, I don't have much else to say, but I would stand for any questions if you have any.
Does anyone have any questions? Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. I look forward to working with you.
Okay, now we're going to go on to our public hearing items, and that would be 22 Wood Lane.
Okay, so the project is for a 160 square foot wooden storage shed. The shed requires a conditional use permit because the site does not comply with the minimum width requirements for a property with a 32% slope. The purpose of the conditional use permit process is to allow for the proper integration of new structures into a developed site and neighborhood. The shed will comply with the minimum setback, height, floor area ratio, and lot coverage regulations. The 1910 house, like so many other houses built during that time period, has limited storage included in their floor plans. The owners need more storage space, and the location it will be located in will not negatively impact neighboring properties. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the project by adopting Resolution 2023-5, setting forth the findings and the conditions for project approval. And I have a change to the staff report. I did finally hear from Ross Valley Sanitary District that they had no comments on the project. So on page 5, the second paragraph, we're changing when submitting the project building permit. We said they needed to submit 7 sets of the plans. Now they only have to submit 6 because we still have not heard from Marin Municipal Water District. So the building official will have to make sure that they take the plans for the shed to MMWD and that they have a chance to comment. I'm not sure why they're not commenting because I've sent numerous reminders. So, and I'm pretty sure that was the only change that I had to the staff report. And we need to change that in the resolution as well, which I thought I redlined here. Hang on. Yeah, so on page 3 of the resolution, you're going to change the 7 sets to 6 sets. Wherever it says 7, it's going to be 6 instead. And that would conclude my report.
Does the commission have any questions for staff? I have one question for you. So Ross Valley Fire's requirement for a sprinkler system due to the size of the shed, that would require electrical and water
Correct.
to the shed.
Correct.
Okay.
And a fire suppression system.
Right.
Right.
And that is only for sheds over 120 square feet.
Correct.
So 120 square foot shed would not require that. And,
Correct.
And there's also you can have more than one.
Our code doesn't limit the number of storage sheds you can have on your property.
Okay. All right.
But, most properties, they go in front of you. So,
Right. Right.
You could limit it that way. Yeah.
I might have missed it in your description, Linda. Is there a setback requirement for the shed?
Yeah. The shed is subject to the same setbacks that the house is. So.
Do the applicants want to make any comments or statements at this time? And if you do, just go up to and push the button. Thanks.
I don't have any, I mean, I can answer any questions. We have a lot of outdoor gear. Like I have a lot of surfboards and bigger items, which is why the shed is so large, because a smaller shed has a hard time fitting them. Yeah. So there's no garage. So this is kind of our solution to try and store our camping gear and our bikes and surfboards and whatnot, which really are piling up in the house right now. But yeah, that's kind of the goal with this.
Thanks. Do commission members have any questions for the applicant?
And I just want to clarify one thing that I meant to point out. The creek setback only applies to the Fairfax and San Anselmo creeks, and this is a tributary to the creek. And so the 20-foot or twice the depth of the bank doesn't apply to this drainage system. So, but it's a little bit of a distance. It's replacing two sheds that were already there, and it doesn't go any closer to the creek than they did. So I think we're okay.
Thank you. No questions for the applicant? Okay, then I'm going to open this up to public comments. Anyone on Zoom?
I see no hands on Zoom, Chair Swift.
Okay, then I'm going to bring this back. I'm going to close public comment on this item and bring it back to the commission for discussion or resolution. Commissioner Newton?
Oh, I was going to just say, I'm all in favor of the shed. Over.
I'll second that resolution if you consider it such.
I'm sorry, but that wasn't a motion.
So do I have a motion?
I so move.
I'll second.
Clarifying with the correction from the 7 to the 6 sets of plans.
Acceptable.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll call the roll. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Fregoso,
Yes.
Jansen,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Newton,
Aye.
Chair Swift.
Aye.
And they appeal.
So motion carries, all in favor, and there's a 10-day appeal process that anyone that wants to appeal can get information from the planning department. And with that, thank you.
Chair Swift, do you need to mention the appeal fee?
I don't know that it's required. Is it required to mention
I don't know if you have to do it by law. Do you remember what the appeal fee is off the top of your head? $675 or something? Yeah, see, it just went up. It used to be 500 and I know it's gone up. I want to say 675, but I could be wrong.
all right,
Say an
but they
average.
can get that information.
Yes, they can get that average, that information from
Right.
town hall.
All right.
I think we should mention it though,
Thank
anytime
you.
we approve something.
Okay, I'll make sure we find out what it's gone up to for the next meeting.
Okay, can we have the staff report on our second item,
Yes, you can.
67 Tamalpais Road?
Okay, so this item was continued at both the December 2022 and January 2023 meetings with direction to the applicant to relocate the project on the site, work on the design so it complements other development in the neighborhood, and with direction to staff to include the parking decks at the rear of the site when considering whether the project might require the approval of a floor area ratio and a lot coverage variance. The house has been relocated so it maintains a 10-foot setback from 73 Tamalpais Road and a 15-foot setback from the side property line at 63 Tamalpais Road. The exterior facade has been redesigned to include stone siding on a lower portion of the building. The roof lines have been changed, so the upper floor roof one runs east-west, and peaked roof lines to match the roof line of the accessory garage and ADU at 73 Tamalpais Road have been incorporated into the area of the dining room and over the entry to the residence. The eastern side of the building has been stepped back from the street, and the dining room has been relocated on top of one of the bedrooms and the garage. So the house is small 13-foot wide portion is in the same location as it was before, and the rest has been stepped back. The town engineer reviewed the revised plans and made no changes to their original recommended conditions, and finding that the project can be built in compliance with the Hill Area Residential Development Ordinance. In reviewing the town code, staff still finds that carports as open-sided structures would not count towards the floor area ratio calculation. And when included in the lot coverage calculations, which just take the footprint of buildings into the square footage of the footprint of buildings into consideration, resulted in a lot coverage percentage of 30%, which complies with the code. Based on our ability to recommend findings for the approval of the Hill Area Residential Development Permit, the design review permit, the tree removal permit, the excavation permit, and the encroachment permits, and the requested combined front rear setback variance to park in the required combined side yard setback, and the driveway width variance, staff is recommending that the commission approve the revised project by adopting resolution 2022-37, which sets forth the findings and the conditions for the project approval. That would conclude my report.
Does the commission have any questions for staff?
Just one note, in the table, on
Thank
page
you.
4, the FAR.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I forgot to make my
Point
corrections.
34, right. Yeah, I've been looking at the numbers, of course.
There were a couple places where I needed to correct that. So thank you. I'll
Okay.
do that right now.
All right.
Yeah. So on the table, there were 2 corrections in the table. We needed to change the required height to 28.5 feet and 3 stories instead of 2 stories, as it says right now. And yeah, and the lot coverage is 30%, and the proposed floor area ratio is 39% with the garages, and I think 34% without the garage. What am I saying? With the garage in the house, and then 30. What am I saying? What was I trying
Yeah,
to say?
34. It's in the
34.
narrative.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. And then it also needed to be corrected on page 6 in the second paragraph, the very last sentence, maintaining a lot coverage, including the 2 carports at the rear of the site of 30%, not 35. And let me make sure that's all I had to change. That I caught, and I'm sure some of you caught more. Oh, yes. In the resolution, we need to add to the title, we need to include the driveway width variance in the list of all the variances that are being requested, because that was left out, and it was also left out at the end. So it was included in the staff report, but not in the resolution. And that's it for now.
Commissioner Newton has her hand raised.
Commissioner Newton?
Linda, I've got to apologize to you, but I don't know if you saw my message that the plans are not accessible on the town's website. The attachment G is listed in your staff report as the project plan set dated March 2, 2023. And when you try to click on that on the town website, it says that the page is not found. So,
Right. And we're going to have to talk to the people that post the website, because it was accessible at one point and then it disappeared. It became inaccessible. And so inaccessible. I'm not sure why that's happening or how we're going to correct that, but it was up for a time.
Yeah, I have concerns about the public notice not including the revised rendering or,
So here's the way I feel about that. It was up for a while. And when people go in to get that, they have a way to contact planning and I can email the plans to them. So someone not being able to get into the plans, if they don't communicate with us because of some error with the website, I don't believe that that's a reason enough to stop the meeting from going forward.
Okay, well, the meeting should go forward. I did communicate with you and Kara earlier about it, and I haven't seen them, so I didn't get them.
Okay, well, we've just been running ragged down there. So down at town hall, we're trying to do our housing element up,
I get it. I'm just probably not going to weigh in on this one.
Okay, we apologize for that. And Brett, when did you go back in and you couldn't get to them? Was that today?
Yeah, today I can get them. I think I reviewed.
Okay. Yeah, so Mimi, I apologize for not being able to get back to your email, and I understand why you feel like you can't weigh in.
I downloaded them, I think, Monday. That's the last time.
Yeah, I apologize. I was cramming last night, so you got the email very early this morning.
Yeah, and I just we are breaking in a new firm, and so I would just encourage people to try to look at things a little bit earlier because we are still in the breaking in period of working with them and trying to get everything. We lost our longtime website person, and we've been having some challenges with it. So
I had a question for staff on that table on page 4. The setbacks. Are
Yes.
those correct? 10 and 15 versus 10 and 10?
Yes, they are.
Because I thought 10 plans T1 showed 10 and 10.
Plans that showed 10 and 15. Yeah, so T1 for me, T1 for me is like the first page. Is that what it was for you too?
It's in the, it's in writing in the middle column under setback. It's not a visual. There's probably.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I finally see it. I didn't see it earlier, but so I'm going off of the existing site with footprint page A10, which shows 10 and 15. It's 10 and 10 if you go to the garbage enclosure, but the garbage enclosure, I wasn't really considering part of the building. It's like a fence around the garbage can. So, I mean, I guess I believe it's 15. You might ask the architect if, every time people take walls away from the footprint of the house to create things like patios and stuff, we don't consider those part of the building. They're not part of the living space foundations, but you could look at it a different way. And obviously the architect looked at it that way, and that's why they wrote 10 and 10. But I believe based on the way we historically do it in Fairfax, it's 10 and 15.
Any other questions for staff? Does the applicant want to come up and make any comments or on this change?
Good evening, commissioners and everybody else. I'll try not to take up too much of your time. They say, third time's a charm. I've been up here now, this is my third time. And I would imagine you're trying to think of ways to get rid of this guy, so I have a suggestion. Approve my drawings tonight and you won't see me again. I do want to point out, maybe this is not pertinent, but I feel like I'd like to say it. A couple of ironies from the last meeting. There was some intimation that Linda had given us a favorable determination with the FAR. And of course, I agree with that the two parking decks on the property do not benefit me. And I want to point out the irony that obviously they benefit other people. I know it's a legacy issue. I didn't deed them, but somebody did to help the neighbors across the way. I know that the new house or the house that's being remodeled at 118 would not be able to exist without a parking spot. And also the house next door, it also gets 2 parking spots. And actually, I know maybe this isn't pertinent, but my house at 63, which has 3 parking spots and a carport, I help my neighbors, Simon and Maggie, who've got 4 children, with their bikes and garbage cans and everything. So all in all, my 2 lots are helping 2 other houses in 3 houses. And I want to point that out. The irony is that I'm being very, what I regard as very neighborly and helping everybody. And the FAR or the increase in it would go against me. And I just find that ironical. And like I said, when I first presented myself, that I'm not a developer, I'm not an investor, I'm not a speculator, I'm a community member, I'm trying to help the community. Yes, of course, I'm building my own house, but I feel like I'm somebody that you should be able to work with rather than a big developer that's going to come in. So I'm trying to be neighborly, trying to be helpful. And I just find it ironical that my property is helping other people and it's going against me. So that's one irony. And the other irony is that there seemed to be some sort of gushing or oozing about 73 Tamil Pious as if it's some architectural masterpiece. And my house has to fit in with that. And I just find it ironical as well, because his house, another legacy issue, is built on the property line, which wouldn't happen today, of course. I understand it's a legacy issue, but the fact is that is a fait accompli, and I'm having to move the house because of it. So I find that ironical. And also, I got nothing against my neighbor at all, but he built that ADU. I know must have gone through the planning commission. Nobody parks in the garage. There's 2 cars that park dangerously on the bend there, while I'm providing 3 parking spots in the new place. I just find that ironical that I'm doing everything I can to be compliant, and yet I'm having to fit in with, all these other issues, which I'm really, so I just find it ironical. And having said that, having, got that off my chest, I feel like if you've seen the new drawings, we've done everything we could to respond to your ideas and complaints or whatever, however you want to put it. We've moved the building 10 foot away from 73, and I think that's more than what was required. I think only required was 8 feet. We've completely redesigned the house, and I'm sure you agree, although I'm sad to see my old drawings, because I love the vision go away, that we've really tried to accommodate all the things that you've asked for. The house is smaller in size, the large glass is gone, there's a beautiful stone now, shingles, everything is now, I feel like, pulling in the ambience around, and I feel like we've accommodated and we've done everything you want. We've changed the color palette, to really make it beautiful. We've moved the house, we've redesigned it. I feel like, and Ron can go into more details, my architect, about the specifics that we've done. So I'm hoping tonight you will give us a favorable determination, and thank you very much.
That was Stephen Altman. My name is Ron Cappy with Cappy Architects. Thank you for honorable commissioners. Thank you for reviewing our proposal tonight, our redesign. I think you'll find that we listen to you as represented in the letter from the planning director. And we're presenting a responsive redesign for your consideration. We centered the house on the lot, 10 feet on the side of 73, 10 feet plus 5 feet for the garbage area over on the east side. We created a larger foyer entrance. This also is because of the JDU. So there's enough room for everybody to enter the place. It's an obvious entry point. We created a porch above the garage. It's a walkout area from the larger bedroom. And that was discussed last time by the commissioners. The scale of the porch area and the dining room were to match the scale, work with the scale. I think you can see that in the sheet that puts the new building in context with the neighbors. So you've got something that picks up on what's going on in the neighborhood. We took the largest gable roof and oriented it east-west and set it back further up the hill. So instead of having glass facing Tamalpais, then it faces east for sunrise. And there's now a deck in front of that upper living room, dining room, kitchen area, which sets back the whole volume up the hill. On the other side, we took down a lot of flat work that was going on behind the building. Remember, there was an 11-foot retaining wall. We got rid of that and just reduced that. You can see the footprint is a lot more compact and centered on the site. The upper roof height has been lowered approximately 3 feet in the process of the redesign. From the street level, you are not going to see very much of that third floor at all. You'll see the dining room and you'll see a fascia over the bedrooms, and then 10 feet back, the building starts. So from the street view, as far as you're concerned, the cornice height is at the second floor, where above the second floor where the deck now is. There's some railing around there. The recycled garbage area that was just being discussed, we set that back from the entrance so it's a little more hidden. So overall, we reduced the site impact quite a bit while still maintaining the basic floor plans that we had and the parking requirements that we had already complied with. Did anybody have a chance to go out and see the story poles? We went and okay, good. Yeah, we adjusted the story poles so you could see that it's a much more compact presentation now. There's a sketch on A7.0, just a hand sketch that shows what the building is looking like in a axonometric drawing. And the grading has been updated. As we thought when we moved it to the center of the lot, there's some additional cubic yards of grading that was impacted, but we have that calculated for you. It's not too much. It's maybe less than 10% increase. So that's what I wanted to say. We have a better copy of the materials board for you if we want to discuss any of that. So we're available to talk it over. And we do, I echo Stephen in saying that we look forward to a favorable result tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have questions for the applicant?
Oh, not questions, comments.
Okay. Any questions? Commissioner?
A question for the applicant. The design seems to have changed quite a lot. Are you still happy with the design?
Yes, I am happy. I love the original design. I can see a little bit of your point that it didn't quite fit in the ambience of the surroundings. I'm one of the surroundings, obviously. I would have been happy to have built it, of course. I think it would have looked beautiful. But in answer to the question, yeah, I'm happy with it. I think it looks really quite beautiful still, and I think it's going to be really an eye catcher.
Yeah, it's changed quite a lot more than I would have expected. I think that in response to our comments, particularly about filigree and things like that, and the scale and proportion of that entry, your sort of front pavilion, I would call it now, almost mirroring the little building next door is exceptional skill, I'd say, with your architect. I'm hoping that the details of the building are as crisp and elegant as I would expect them to be from your architect. I think it's going to be a great project. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? I had two questions. One, moving the building over, did that change any tree removal issues or your?
No, we'd already removed the trees we needed to. We protected the one oak tree in the backyard by moving structures away from it.
Okay. And then my second question has to do with windows. So on the prior plans, we had opaque windows, and then we had windows that had vertical wooden fins on them. Can you address how the windows are on both sides in this set of plans? Wasn't clear to me how they had changed.
On the west
Thanks.
side, yes. On the west side, that's next to 73 Tamalpais, there's one window. Then that's a bathroom window, and that's obscure glass. So that's frosted. It's, nobody can see in, nobody can see out. On the other side, we have more glass. That's clear glass. I think the only frosted glass now is that west side. So it's clear glass that looks over to Stevens' property. So probably it's about 40 feet away from you, 45 feet away. Yeah. So those are the main windows. We got rid of a lot of windows, and then these are just conventional windows. We're not trying any, kind of unusual coverings on them or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
I do want to point out that I think that there's an inaccuracy on your drawings with regard to windows. I think there is a window shown adjacent to the bath in the lower level that doesn't show on the elevations. And I assume that you're also going to obscure that glass as well. I know that there's quite a bit less glazing there this time than there was last time. I assume that's just a drafting error, and you're being conscious of the views to and from that neighbor.
Absolutely.
Just check your drawings.
Absolutely.
I assume that's just a drafting error. It does show that there's a window in both upper and lower baths, but on the elevation, there's only one window shown.
It would be the same philosophy towards the window. They're bathroom windows. He wants privacy as much as the neighbor wants privacy.
Well, it's actually on the bath also. So I assume you're going to want some privacy.
Yeah. So then if you're, using the bathtub, you can bring some soft light in, but nobody can see what you bathing.
Any other questions for the applicants? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to open this to public hearing on this. Is there anyone in the public in the room that would like to speak to it? And if you come up to the podium and turn on the microphone. Thank you.
I just wanted to check it. that now that I've heard that the plans have changed, are we still asking for all of these variances? And then, because I never got a notice
And
for
can
the
you
other
just,
two.
for the minutes, can you just mention your name?
Andrew Land,
Okay.
119 Scenic. Okay. When I watched the original story polls go up, I said, wow, they are really trying to shoehorn this house onto this lot. I'm a builder, is what I do for a living. And, I was looking at this and it's, wow, they're really going to try to build a house on this. It's a really steep lot. I have some concerns about that as well. I live on Scenic. My house fronts Scenic, and in the back I'm on Pius. So I basically look right up at that lot. A 3-story house on that lot, I think it's way too much, but this is just my opinion. But I'm looking at at these variances and what's on this notice that we got is this is all still being asked for, all these variances and encroachments and everything. It is. Okay. So I don't want to, I try to be a good neighbor, but when I remember what I went through to build my house, we didn't ask for any variances. We didn't ask for any encroachments, anything, but we got denied and we ended up having to sue the town of Fairfax to get our permit. So fortunately we were ahead. We were successful, but it cost me thousands of dollars extra. So, I'm looking at all these variances that they're asking for, and I apologize to you guys, but this is just my feeling. I live there and I've been there for almost 20 years. And it's like, wow, it really seems, even though you've changed the drawing, it does really seem like you are really trying to shoehorn this into this lot. So, that's just my opinion. And, you guys can, you probably have already all made up your minds already, but I wanted to put my 2 cents worth, as it were, in there. So, I've got a lot of concerns about the steepness of the lot and the building on there. And, with the rain that we've had, who knows whether the excavation is going to cause a problem. Okay. That's all I have. Okay.
Thank you. Sir?
Hi, my name is George Pickerainen. I live at 124 Tamalpais Road in Fairfax. I have the easement, which is at the bottom of the top of the lot, which is going to be built on. And we have a large tree, which is right on the border of between my easement and the lot that's going to be built on. And we have a relatively unstable hill where a slide occurred at 120 Tamalpais Road and took out the house there. And when they built a new house up on Scenic, they had to stabilize the hill above it. But evidence would indicate that the hill below 124 and below 120 is somewhat unstable. So my concern is to protect my right to have my parking area on the easement, which has been there for many, many years. And I'm concerned that any disturbing of the ground below my parking deck will cause weakening of the hill and some movement of the earth in that area and may destabilize my parking area as well. So I think that if a permit is permitted, and I'm all for my neighbor doing whatever he wants with his lot, the hills to protect the parking decks for 118 and 124 should be stabilized, which as it is in the past, although my parking deck is old, it is still totally functional, but if any weakening of the hill occurs, it may become less functional. Also, if the deck were to fall for some reason, an earthquake, now is all it will hit was dirt. But if there's a house built, it would land right on top of the house that's being built. I just wanted to call that to your attention to have that in the record because I've got to protect myself as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And can you, never mind. Thanks. Can we see if there's anyone on Zoom for public comment?
I see no hands on Zoom.
Would the commission like me to read the conditions that the town engineer put on the project for the shoring condition? Because that's going to address.
I think that would be
Please,
helpful.
please do. I was about to.
Okay. Are the people that commented listening, please? Because our town engineer shared your concerns, right? And so there are conditions on this project that prior to issuance of the building permit, they have to submit an initial and separate shoring permit, right? That for the construction of the house, the shoring permit shall be reviewed and approved by the town engineer prior to issuance of the building permit. They have to say how they're going to excavate and retain the hillside and stabilize it while they're digging down, right? You probably understand, but I don't know if he does. Okay. Then what? Well, they're going to be reviewed by our town engineer. The town engineer's responsibility is to protect the town and the neighbors. The applicant's engineer is going to propose whatever he proposes, but we have a peer review by our town engineer, and their job, Miller Pacific, is to protect the neighbors, our public street, and the town. Okay. Then the project geotechnical engineer shall observe and document conditions during the shoring, wall drilling, and construction, and shall provide a letter to the town summarizing his observations during the shore pier drilling and either verify or supplement his recommendations at that point. If the proposed project design is impacted by the revised or supplemental recommendations, applicable plan sheets should be revised and will be subject to review and approval by the planning director and the town engineer prior to issuance of the building permit for the construction of the house. If the planning director determines the changes require planning commission review and approval, such as significant changes to the project excavation estimates, changes that will change the height of the house or the exterior appearance of the house, staff will advise the applicant that the project will require approval of a modification to the discretionary permits already issued for the project. The planning permit modifications must be obtained before a building permit for the house construction can be issued. And I just want to comment on building on a slope in Fairfax. All we have left now are like remainder parcels, and they haven't been built on for a reason, because they're difficult to build on. But someone's been paying taxes on them for years. And the courts have repeatedly made the determination that if someone pays taxes on a piece of property, they have a right to do something with it, right? And it's pretty common for these hillside sites to require all kinds of exceptions to the code because our roads aren't paved to the full width of the right of way. So there's an area that retaining walls have to go into to build the parking that we require. So, and I think you guys understand that. The public may not. If you see 54 Mountain View, it's requiring all kinds of exceptions, and it's an existing house on a sloped piece of property. Mr. Land's property is pretty level. So that's the difference. This is not a flat lot. Yeah. So that's all I wanted to say.
Through the chair.
Commissioner.
The public meeting is closed, right?
So I'm going to bring it back to the commission for discussion. Okay. So go for it.
Thank you. And thank you, Linda, because I was about to read exactly all of the requirements that you have read to explain to our attendees and those on television how extensive and detailed these plans are required for submittal and the review. And frankly, sir, I'm offended at your comment that we come here and we've made up our minds. Clearly, you haven't been to too many commission meetings because we change our minds back and forth within a meeting quite often. But I don't, it's my turn to speak, sir. I did not interrupt you. Excuse me. And so I also want to say that all of these variances are very typical and reasonable requests, given, as staff has mentioned, the difficulties of these remaining slopes that are left to be developed. And aside from that, I would like to thank Mr. Altman and Cap for very seriously listening to the very sincere comments of the commissioners. I very much appreciate your response. We don't often have that level of give and take. And I believe, and it seems that you are also now quite happy with this design, which I understand. The other one, if you just saw it on a drawing, it was quite beautiful. But when you start to look at the incorporation into the neighborhood, I really love the redesign that you have brought to us this evening. And I am totally in support of it. I agree that you have 15 feet on the garbage side because I do not count a trash can as part of setback. If that were the case, my whole house would be a problem. I love the design. I love the scale of it and how you've incorporated the character, the architectural character and qualities of design of the adjacent properties, including your own, sir. And I am just delighted to see this, and I think it will be a lovely addition to the neighborhood. Thank you.
Any other commissioners?
I'll keep it short. Yeah, I'd like to echo what I've heard before. And again, I'm very happy to see the effort that went into addressing the comments. It's very well done. It was noted before, yes, this is a small lot, so to try to fit it in is difficult, but that is also the explanation why it is here in the commission, and we have to look at all those variances. I understand also the irony that was mentioned before. There's a lot of conditions on this lot that are outside the owner's influence, but unfortunately, that's why we have to work with it. So, but I understand it. I sympathize with it. Sorry. Furthermore, I think it was mentioned already before. I think it's very important how the house has moved, because that was one of the larger painful things about how it was originally set. So thank you for all that effort.
I'd like to just rehash what I had briefly said before. I think that the comments made at our last meeting were obviously heard and responded to appropriately. I do still think the house could be moved another 5 feet and it would be better for the neighborhood. I think the vast redesign that you've done overshadows that opinion. I think the scale and proportion of the building particularly, it mirrors the little carriage house that I am quite fond of, as I said before. I hope that the detailing, Mr. Cappy, is as modern and elegant as I know that you're capable of. And it'll be a really interesting contrast, actually, of the 120-year-old building next to something that's the same proportion right next to it that's likely going to be contemporary and elegant. I think that's a great response to our comments. It's completely appropriate. I think it'll be a fine addition to the neighborhood. So thank you.
Commissioner Newton.
Thanks. And I really appreciate the input that you guys have provided, because again, I'm going to abstain from the vote on this item because I didn't see the plans, but I trust you guys, and it sounds really positive. I did read all the, the staff report and the reso. So one comment I have on the reso is on page 4, to put the date that the new plans were received in the reference to the new plans, so we can be sure that we're all on the same page with what plans are being discussed. And then I have the same question I've asked previously, and I apologize again because I can't remember what the answer was, but there's a prohibition against doing construction during wet months. I think they can begin April 1st. There's a prohibition against doing work during the spotted owl nesting season, which I think lasts through July. And then there's a Marin Municipal Water District requirement that they complete the building of the foundation with 120 days of the application. And I'm just wondering how you do that. Thanks. Over.
Staff, you want to address the MMWD piece of it?
The piece about that they say at any moment we may decide not to issue water meters, that part?
No.
Oh, what part? Oh, the foundation. Yeah. So, the northern spotted owl nesting season, they can now petition the state to get exemptions to that for certain things. But I know that we had another house at 251 Tamalpais. I think people probably remember that walk through that neighborhood, and they're in the same state. They're in the northern spotted owl, and they were able to comply with the MMWD excavation requirements. So I'm not a contractor. I don't know how they do it, but they did it. So.
Well, the MMWD thing seems kind of arbitrary, right? Like,
you're wanting to know why they do that? I can ask them.
Finish my sentence.
Okay.
It seems rather arbitrary to me that they give you this 120-day window to finish your foundation, when in reality, the spotted owl nesting season is not an arbitrary time frame. And so I would rather see people get a little bit of an extension from MMWD to build the foundation than try to go around the spotted owl nesting season. That's just my 2
Got
cents.
it. Okay.
Over.
Noted, and we can talk to MMWD about that. But I don't know that we'll be successful. That condition's been in there for a long, long time. They put that in every single application that entails new construction that needs a foundation.
And maybe when you talk to MMWD, you could just ask them,
Find out why.
how the reality, yes, why, but then in reality, how is that working with the other restrictions? And maybe they do things where they can allow extensions or something like that. For just getting some background from them would be helpful.
I'm just being facetious, but I will add that to my list since I can't even get them to respond to my reviews that I send to them. We'll see if I can get that information.
Thank you. Any other comments from commissioners? Okay. Is there a motion?
Can I just ask a question about the motion? Linda, did you say that the motion on the reso was not correct? We should use the title of the staff report? I just read them. They look the same to me.
No, what I said, and I don't know, I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I'm pretty sure that I left out of the title, the driveway width variance, unless I just read it so fast that I'm not seeing it there. You need to add the driveway width variance to the title, and then you need to add it to the
Last page of the
last
reso.
page. Yeah.
Okay, so the driveway that is in the staff report title. So if I read the
Correct.
staff report,
Yes, she'll be good. Yep.
that should work.
Right. And then we'll make those changes. Oh, and there was one other change that I thought I talked about with Chair Swift on page 12 under condition 59. We wanted to add in the last sentence, a copy of the recorded drainage system maintenance agreement shall be provided to the town prior to issuance of the building permit. Just to make it very clear that it's the drainage system easement or drainage system maintenance agreement. We want to make sure that the drainage system that's installed actually has a maintenance agreement, how often the system has to be cleaned so that any future buyers know that they have this system that has to be maintained and it can't just fill up with soil and stop working.
So then I move approval of the Hill Area Residential Development Permit, Design Review Permit, Excavation Permit, Revocable Encroachment Permit, Tree Removal Permit, and Retaining Wall Height Variance, Driveway Width Variance to allow the required uncovered parking in the combined side yard setback, and combined front rear setback variance for application number 2229. And with the change staff has proposed on page 12 of the resolution to add, I just lost it.
And to add the driveway width variance. Do you want me to read what
I did the driveway width variance.
Okay.
But to add the page 12 of the reso that you were talking about,
that the drainage maintenance
the
agreement.
drainage
be
maintenance
recorded prior
agreement
to-
to be recorded prior to the issuance of the building permit.
And if I may add, to add the driveway with variance to that same page 12 at the bottom where it says now therefore it be resolved. So have it in the
Yes.
title. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
Agreed.
And if I could
Agreed.
suggest,
Thank you.
if I could suggest putting the date of the revised plans on page 4 of the reso where we reference the plan.
Yes. Also,
yes.
excellent point, Commissioner Newton. I forgot that. Linda, I think you have that all.
I do.
Okay.
I have it all written down on my reso. So
That is my motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
okay,
Yes.
sorry, I didn't have my mic on. Fregoso,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Jansen,
Aye.
Newton.
Abstain.
Oh, that's right. Okay, abstain. And Chair Swift.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And there is a 10-day appeal process and with a fee, and information can be had at the planning department. Thank you.
Best of luck to you, gentlemen.
Okay, we're going to go on to our next item on the agenda, which is 129 Lansdale. Can we have the staff report, please?
Okay, so the project site is about 6,000 square feet. It's flat. It's developed with a 2,442 square foot house, a single car detached garage, an accessory building behind the garage, a pool and a pool shed. The garage was constructed to the side property boundary in the late 50s with a building permit. The property is a corner lot that fronts on Lansdale Avenue and is bordered by Baywood Court. The existing side and rear fences are 7 feet in height, which exceeds the 6-foot height limit. So there is a condition of project approval requiring the fencing to be reduced to 6 feet. Let's see, the property does not meet one of the individual side setbacks or the combined side setbacks since the garage was built to a side property line. The FAR is 0.44, which exceeds the FAR. And 61% of the site is covered with impervious surfaces. So it doesn't meet the 35% lot coverage requirement. The project proposes to substantially renovate the home. The interior and exterior would be renovated as well as the yard. So there would be a lot of upgrades, the structural system. There would be new lighting, electrical, mechanical, plumbing systems, and fire sprinklers installed. All siding would be replaced with WUI compliant siding. Doors and windows would be replaced with new doors and windows. The dormer on the first floor roof at the front of the house would be replaced with a standing seam metal roof. And approximately 10 feet from the living room would be removed to create a larger front entry area that would open onto a new reconfigured front entry porch that would have a bench, a built-in bench. And site work, so as part of the project, the property owner would remove approximately 40% of the impervious surface area and replace that with pervious pavers. So the site would go from 61% impervious coverage to 32%. They would also create 2 new 9x19 off-street parking spaces in the backyard by filling in a portion of the existing pool. That requires about 36 cubic yards of fill. And they would also construct an additional driveway entrance off of Baywood Court to access the new parking spaces. And other site work consists of a new fence along Lansdale, some minor landscaping, and a wraparound deck and sunshade at the back of the house. So this project requires a design review permit because it's a 50% remodel, a front setback variance for the new entry porch that would be 6 feet from the street frontage on a corner lot, and corner lots are required to have a 10-foot setback from all street frontages. And it also requires a combined side yard setback variance for a portion of the wraparound deck and sunshade that would encroach. They would have about a 9-foot combined side yard setback because of those two features. And the project also requires a parking variance to allow the 2 new parking spaces in the individual and combined side yard setback, and also to legalize the existing compact space in the garage. So that is sort of the project description, the discretionary approvals, and staff recommends that you move to approve the application 2303 by adopting resolution 2023-03 that set forth the findings and conditions for the project approval.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have questions for staff? Commissioner Jansen?
So for a corner lot, the setback for a fence higher than 4 feet would be 10 foot on both sides facing the public street, correct? So for a corner lot, the fencing around the property would have to be either 4 feet or lower, or it has to be set back 10 feet, meaning the front and the side facing.
Yeah,
That's correct. Right?
Yeah.
So the existing fence along Baywood, was that built with a permit?
Fences don't require permits, and we don't have anything in the property.
So it should have, if it was built prior to 1973, right? The fence height limitation wasn't in effect. And the code has always allowed legal non-conforming structures to be maintained, right? If you replace them more than 50%, you're supposed to comply with the new regulations. But the record keeping in Fairfax was pretty bad. And so we're not finding any record that that the fence either predated the code or that they got a variance. And the variance is, if it happened after the code was in place, there should be minutes or something. So
Right.
I don't believe it's a legal fence, but.
Okay, thank you.
You know, I had one person one time actually bring dated photographs of like this hedge that was 12 feet in height, right? Dated photographs. And that proved that the hedge was at 15 feet before the height limit went in effect.
Okay.
But the records on most properties don't have that kind of stuff.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner?
I didn't see any, but did we receive any comments from the neighbors?
No, I didn't get any.
Okay.
Through the chair. Cara, could you one more time, the fence on the side where the new parking will be going, the fence is in front of the parking, not behind it? Okay.
Correct.
And then does the fence go all the way to the corner now? I can't remember.
You mean, does it go all the way to?
All the way to
Lansdale?
Tamalpais.
It's on
Lansdale?
It's on the side, Lansdale, it's on the side street.
Oh, okay, Baywood. Yeah.
It's on the fence is on Baywood, the offending 8-foot fence,
7, yeah.
7 foot.
Yeah, there's actually a little bit of a sidewalk on the other side of the
Yes,
fence.
yeah. And I'm just wondering, with the pool there, reducing the fence to reducing it a foot. I mean, if I had a pool, I'd kind of like to have a 7-foot fence because at 6 feet, people can just be looking over the pool. But my question is, and I don't have my plans rolled out, does that 7-foot fence go all the way to the corner, or does it end at the edge at the face of the house? And then it goes down from there. Are they replacing that fence?
No, not the fence that's, I believe
Not the one on Baywood.
No, that's not being replaced.
Okay, because,
Yeah,
all right.
it's the front
I'm
fence.
just feeling like they could leave that as far as I was concerned, but
Okay,
that's up for the commission to discuss. Thank you, Karen.
sure.
Yep. For the front setback variance, most of the discussion is on sightline for motorists is the reason why the corner lot has the longer setback. Is there any other reason the town or staff has ever considered for the need to maintain a longer front setback variance?
I couldn't hear any answer.
No, it's sightline. That's the primary reason, so people can see.
So sight line coming on Baywood, being able to look onto Lansdale because you're on the corner.
Correct, right. So there isn't a collision.
Commissioner Jansen?
I would like to respond to that. The setback from the public right-of-way for fences has to do with the urban design. You can't put a fence straight up to the property line that is so high you can't look over. So in other words, if you walk around town, you can see the front doors, you see the houses, you see the front yards. That's the idea for the setback. And the vehicular sightline is also an important safety feature, but I think there's two reasons why this is in the zoning code.
I'd also argue that when the houses are next to each other, the fences may block views from your neighbor's window if they're too high, things like that.
Any other questions for staff? Sorry. If not, if the applicants would come up and have the chance to provide any comments and be available to answer any questions. Thanks. And if you could introduce yourself, so.
Sure. Good evening. I'm Samson Gopp. I'm the homeowner at 129. And this is Andrew. He's my architect who's been helping me with this. Just quickly about me, I grew up here in Fairfax. My mom still lives here in the house I grew up in. And my wife and I bought 129 in 2012. We've got 2 kids and we're finally in a position to be able to do some of the deferred maintenance and make some upgrades to the house. I just wanted to maybe clarify just a couple things. The fence that goes along Baywood is actually a 6-foot tall fence with a 1-foot picture window, and it stops at the front part of the house. So that all of the low fence that is on the corner and facing Lansdale is like a 3-foot fence. So it provides sight line, and the one of the things we're hoping to do is with the front entryway redesign and the front porch is integrate better with the community so we can be sitting out there and saying hi to neighbors and stuff as they're walking by. So I'm not sure if the plan is clear as far as the fence is. There's no tall fence in front of the house. The only tall fence is, well, 6-foot fence along Baywood, and then the back fence, which is shared with our back neighbor. There's a big hedge that they have that grows up above it. And so that fence is 7 feet, and that's just their car parking area, but it's also blocked by their huge hedge. So I don't know if that's helpful or not, but I just want to try to clarify what that fence situation is about. And then just the last thing I would say is, like, one of the big questions was how to fit 2 extra parking places onto the lot, which we really wanted to do to help out the community and then also have access to that. We know we've got 2 kids. At some point, they're at Manor now, but at some point they're going to be bigger. So the best solution we found was if we could do we tried so many different things, like parking places in the front and parking places in the side yard, but there were turn radius issues, and we really were trying to figure out how to do it. And then ultimately we came up with the plan that we're presenting. We worked with Cara and Linda, and they liked it. We were excited about it. So we're hoping that it meets approval. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Andrew, I don't know if you have anything that you needed to say.
Yeah, I just clarify that the fence that we're proposing in the front yard, it's 3 feet tall. It's really just to keep the dog in the yard and actually, have some level of just protection and containment. And the front porch it's 1'10" is the part that's in the setback. Same with at the rear deck as well. We did try to keep these very low so that it's more at the level of landscape. I would just like to add quickly that I think that my client Samson and his wife Kate, they are doing a ton of work on this house. Thus, we're with the design review here today. And it really, I think, does come back to the fact that a lot of these structures are at their end of their service life. All the systems are failing. And so, if they want to fix electrical in one room, it ends up meaning that you have to take the chipboard apart and you end up taking the house apart, and then you have a design review. So, in terms of making this better for them, I think this is part of the impetus to make the house more habitable and functional. On the exterior, I think we are vastly improving the appearance from what to me looks like a very awful renovation, probably 3 decades ago, in terms of what it did to the original Craftsman house. And I think we're trying to be sensitive with like materials that would be maybe refer back to the Craftsman, but also be a little earthy and accessible. In addition to being fire resistant and energy efficient as well, in terms of all the window replacement and the new building systems.
Through the chair.
Thank you. Questions for the applicant?
A comment more than a question. I think you've done a lovely job of creating a really welcoming front door. Right now it's awkward with the stairs and it's a weird little bench, and I think it's just a lovely design. And I think your architectural work was excellent in with a very small amount of space, really making something quite dramatically beautiful out of it. And the parking along the side is a really good idea. And I am most impressed that you are actually using that little garage. And because, you know, how many people use their garage to park a car in? I'm so delighted to see that you're parking a car in there. I'm really happy to give you that compact space because obviously garages are compact. Thank you.
Any other questions from Commissioner Kelly?
I have just one question. I'm having a little trouble reading the pervious surface drawings. Can you just tell us in general how the pervious to impervious, what's changing?
Speak to some of that. Yeah. Well, part of what there is now is there is this like paving bricks that are touching throughout the entire backyard around the pool. There's also like concrete pad that for some reason there's like a large concrete pad in the backyard. So all that would be removed and demolished and would be replaced with like spaced out, like flat concrete pieces with greenery or grass growing in between them. So that, yeah. Thanks.
Any other questions from the commission to the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to open this up to public comments on this application. Seeing none in the room, I'm going to go to Zoom.
There are no hands online.
So I'm going to close public comments and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Jansen?
Yes, it's a lovely design. I certainly would second that. And I think the minor encroachments that you see on the porch and I think that's completely logical considering the given condition, and basically the whole project makes the situation a lot better. But I have one problem, and that is that fence. So I cannot formulate for myself a reason why it would be okay to have a 6-foot fence along the public right of way. There's no precedence along Lansdale in any of the side streets. I think the area all has this very low open side yards and front yards. I think the fence is existing, but I think because by giving all these variances, it becomes permanent, and I don't yet have an argument why I could make that fit. That's my problem. I'm basically putting it for the commission. I mean, I'm struggling here myself to understand what to do with it. And again, as I said, I really like the project. It looks good. That's my comments for here.
So can staff say something? So the commission, not this commission, but has granted, usually on corner lots, when they come in and ask for exceptions to the fence height limitation, the commissions have taken the position that on a corner lot, you don't have much privacy. And so they've usually granted some 6-foot fences along the street, right, to create a private yard area, right? Maybe it doesn't go all the way up to the front setback, like maybe the side yard's open, but they have allowed people to go up to 6 feet so that they have some private yard area, like behind the house, depending upon the houses or how the house is oriented, like on a corner, like on a curved lot, they might allow variances along one side to get some kind of private yard space. So that's in the record that has been granted by numerous previous commissions for corner lots. But I also wanted to point out that our fence height limitation, it applies to hedges too. And so, hedges often get above the height limit, and we are complaint based. And so without a neighbor showing up and saying that these fences are new, if they've been there a while, I don't know if you want to just just say they're existing,
Well, so that would then maybe a question for you, I think.
or lowering the ones. Go ahead, Flor.
Sure. No, and I know there are many of these situations in town that just simply exist that way.
Yeah.
I understand. Going back to your first comment, right, you could have a higher fence to protect the rear yards. That makes completely sense. That's why I understand that prior commissions might have approved where you allow something higher so that the privacy of the backyard is protected.
Right. So maybe
But-
like along the side where the parking is, so you can't look
Right.
into the pool, just to maybe the back of the house or maybe halfway down the house,
Okay.
right?
No, understood.
But
Yeah.
not all the way to the front.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very long.
Because it's
Um,
always been important in Fairfax to try to maintain the friendly, open look of the front yards. When I first started here, they made it very clear that they did not want to create walled communities where you, like Ross, sections of Ross, where you drive around and all you
yeah.
see is 12-foot walls and fences. That's not what Fairfax wants to look like.
Right. So if I then may ask if we would approve this application, does that thereby make that fence legal, or is it just still non-compliant existing?
I think we would just call it existing non-compliant. And if some neighbor wanted to come forward and present evidence to show that it was brand new or it was built, post the regulation going into effect and it hasn't just been replaced bit by bit over the years, right? Then we don't have any proof that it hasn't been there forever and with just slats being replaced, right?
It's currently existing, and
Yeah.
if it's not rebuilt,
So I
then
think you just say, hey, we want the section, maybe a 50-foot section next to the parking lowered to the permitted 4 feet. You can put conditions on it for whatever area you want it dropped to 4 feet, the permitted 4 feet, right? And indicate where you would allow it to go up to the 6 feet because it's already there at 7 feet, right?
I thought the staff report indicated the fencing could go up to 6 feet.
I thought you conditioned it to being, it's right now at 7 feet and the staff report conditioned it to drop to the permitted 6 feet.
Right. So I'm just questioning Commissioner Jansen. I thought you were objecting to 6 feet, whereas my understanding is the 6 feet is permitted. I didn't quite follow that.
so the 6 feet is permitted between parcels in the back and the rear and the sides, but not the front, unless you have a corner parcel, because then one of the sides is basically a front. It's facing the public right away. And that's that vision that the town is open. So if you travel on the public right away, you see the house and the yard and all the aspects of it. At least that's the concept of the zoning. So because this is a corner lot, you would expect that both sides, the front and the side on the side street, would be a low fence, or it would be set back by 10 feet over the entire length. And that is typically what the properties around Lansdale are, except for some hedges, but there's no big fence. And as I said, I like the design. That's not the problem, but I don't want to set a precedent. And then they're all going to build fences there, and then we'll feel sorry. So it's pretty long. It's basically the entire length of the lot minus 10 feet on the front. I don't know what the lot size is, but that's a long fence. And it's existing, so you can see it. And I think if nobody complains, then we can just leave it. But I'm unclear where that goes. If we approve this, are we then approving that fence? Because then all the neighbors can do it.
So if I could clarify, you would recommend we approve the fence variance for the back fence, but not for the Baywood side of the property.
It's
Right.
only the fences on the, sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
Only the fences on facing the public's right away. Those are the only ones of concern, I think.
And because the front along Lansdale is already down, right?
Mhm.
Your big concern is the height of the fence along Baywood.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Staff, are we though asking for a fence height variance in this reso?
No. Our record is unclear. We can't prove that it was illegally built at 7 feet, right? So we're just recommending approval of the project subject to the fence being lowered to what's allowable, right? Well, in the side and the rear, and then it's up to you guys if you want to. I mean, for me, what's been done in the past by past commissions is it's been limited. They haven't allowed people to put 6-foot fences all the way up to the 10-foot setback on the side. You know, they've limited it to create a small rear yard that's private. They don't want to create walled communities. So my preference would be that you ask them to drop the fence, you know, and I'm trying to think of a measurement here. You know, maybe even with the back, like it would drop to 4 feet from the back of the house, or maybe this middle of the house up to the corner. So that when you turn the corner, you still see landscaped yard area. And then the fence that drops to 6 feet is just a small portion of the rear to provide private outdoor space, right? That's what's been done by the commission in the past. They haven't allowed a whole side right up to the 10-foot setback to be 6 feet. Is that sense, or am I confusing it
Excuse me,
more?
through the chair, for clarification. So my question was, how far forward does that 7-foot fence go?
I think doesn't it go?
It goes,
It goes all
It goes
the way
to the edge of,
corner.
it goes to the corner, or just to the edge of the house? To the corner of the house, which I don't have a problem with. I would leave it, but that's me.
And just to clarify
Let's
that,
create a
it goes
precedent.
to the corner of the house, not the front porch that's going into the 10-foot
Correct.
setback.
Right?
correct.
Correct.
Just the house. So it'd be
Which would need a variance.
I can't hear that.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Newton.
Kara, I could not hear what Kara said.
Kara, can you repeat what you just said? Commissioner Newton couldn't hear you.
I believe what she said was
Sorry.
that the 7-foot fence. Oh, I turned it off instead of on. The 7-foot fence along Baywood runs not to the corner of Tamalpais, Lansdale,
Yeah.
but it goes only to the edge of the house. And from that point forward, which is more than 10 feet, the fence is lowered to the front street.
the picture. Yeah.
It's this solid on this back. Future, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I may, through the chair. So I think to give it some direction, I think there are two possibilities, right? Either this is not part of this application. It is nor approved nor disapproved. It just is existing and we leave it alone. Or it is part of this application and then we need to either find a reason why this would be acceptable and that would set a precedent that I think is tricky, or we would modify what it looks like currently by changing the design. So I think we should tackle the first one first. Is it or is it not part of this application? If we let it go, if we let it be the way it is and we don't touch it, then if it ever wants to be replaced, it has to be either made compliant or get a variance. Or is it part of the application if we approve this? That is the first question we need to answer.
Right now, it's referenced in the resolution on page 3, under the first whereas clause. It accepts from the approved plans the 7-foot high fence depicted on the plan page in the application, and says the 7-foot high fencing depicted shall be reduced to a maximum of 6 feet in height as specified in condition of approval 32 below. And I think that is an endorsement of the 6 feet. I think once that language is adopted, it would be difficult for the town to say that we hadn't approved a 6-foot fence along as I guess the currently depicted 7-foot fence is. And then there's also condition 32, which is it's the first miscellaneous condition on page 7. I think it's also really interesting that Linda and the staff report have referred to that bayside part as the side, right? Like Lansdale is the front, as we've discussed this. But as you pointed out, Commissioner Jansen, there's really 2 fronts, because of Bayside being a corner lot. So that's just sort of topsy-turvy to me. I don't know how to deal with that.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to jump in here and say that I want to echo what you said, Commissioner Jansen. I do think this is an important issue for the town, just as a pedestrian-friendly, visually accessible town that we like to be. I do want clarification, though, that is the project replacing this fence?
No, the project isn't. I mean, I don't know if one thing that popped into my mind that I don't know if this is something that would be feasible or not is perhaps we could condition the project that they relocate the fence. So it's the required distance from
But then wouldn't it chop their new parking in half?
Oh, yeah.
Wait, I'm not looking at the right site plan.
Is there, because one of the concerns coming from Baywood is safety, right? So you want to have a sight line when you drive up Baywood to Lansdale. Would there be thoughts given to having that fence be 2 heights? So a portion of it is 6 feet, and then a portion of it is lower, the fence portion that's closer to Lansdale, so you have more of a sight line?
Yeah, I'd like to try to dig into what the language of the code actually says. But when I look at the project, I think you could make an argument that anything beyond try to get my directions right, the non-Lansdale end of the site, at the end of the house would be backyard. So you could definitely say that parking zone could have a 6-foot fence because it's not front. I think there could be an argument for that. I think the project would be a better neighborhood project without the tall fence in general. I also, before my computer died a few minutes ago, sorry about that, but I noticed that your fence is actually quite lovely for a tall fence. It's got flowers coming over the top of it and whatnot, because I was looking on Google Maps. And as far as, big imposing wall fences, it's an okay fence as an existing fence. Sounds like the applicant might want to speak. I don't know if this is a time to do that or not.
Oh, I was going to respond. I think it might be good if the applicant wants to talk. Let's listen to it. I think that's important.
You can, yeah.
Linda, is that a copy of the town code in that big black book? Can you see that?
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that the fence along Baywood right now, a couple things. First of all, it's only a 6 foot tall fence and has a 1 foot picture window. So it actually is only 6 feet. And that part of this is about the pool, wanting to make sure that people that it's safe for animals and neighbors as well, so that it's not accessible with a low fence. But the other thing is that fence goes up to the front of the house, which faces Baywood, but that is 15 feet back from Baywood. So you do have a 15 foot of corner space for the sight lines when if you're making a right turn off of Baywood onto Lansdale. So that fence that goes from the front of the house along Baywood to the corner to Lansdale, that's all the low fence. That's only 3 feet. So there's a substantial sight line already with that low fence, and that other one is just along the side there. And actually, the neighbors across the street also have quite a large wall with a hedge and everything that's tall too. So those are the ones directly across. So on that section, there's not much difference as far as it's not like there's another open yard right there or anything like. Anyways, I just wanted to clarify the dimensions of the fence, if that's helpful. Thank you. Did you want to add to anything?
I think Sampson covered everything I wanted to say, but in the event we're trending towards lowering the fence for the entire Baywood side, for example, I think the pool safety issue is a big one. And I think if there is a resolution passed, if we can accommodate building code requirements around fence heights for pools, hopefully there's some way to reconcile those two concerns. Because the pool, I think, preceded the project as well as the fence, to be completely clear.
I just want to sort of retort to that, though, that you could put a fence right around the pool and it would be safe. So It doesn't have to be at the street, and it would be a better neighborhood fence if it wasn't at the street. So
okay,
careful what you ask for.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Sorry.
I was just going to ask, would you be willing to have that fence on Baywood be 2 heights?
2 heights. Oh, so it goes kind of half. I would prefer just to leave it as it was and not have to mess with the fence, but that'd be my preference if possible. Feeling like it does give the sight lines, but I'm open to.
Okay. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thanks.
Commissioner Newton has her hand raised.
Commissioner Newton.
Thanks. I think one way we could address Commissioner Jansen's concerns about endorsing the height of the fence. Well, let me take a step back. Linda, do you agree that the fence that goes up 6 feet and then has that sort of open, I think as the applicant referred to it, picture window that goes up the extra foot, do you think that's still a 6 foot fence, or is that a 7 foot fence?
That's a 7 foot fence, because our fence definition, somewhere in the code, fence is defined, you measure the height from the lowest point of grade to any point above that. And so having a see-through portion doesn't make your fence a foot shorter.
All right.
But we have had situations where the commission has granted 7 foot fences with an open 1 foot panel, on the top. just if there are neighbors with, issues of privacy in their yards, but that's usually between two properties. So what I wanted to repeat is that the commission has granted height variances for fences on corner lots, but they usually require quite a bit of the area on the street frontages to drop to 4 feet because they want to create, I'm trying to think of an address where they've done this. I mean, right at, I could pick out three or four of them. They usually like the fence to be 4 feet along a significant portion of the street frontage because it's friendly and inviting, right? So, maybe they would allow, but I think they would allow a 6-foot fence to screen the pool area. I believe that that's a reasonable request. Is that sanctioning somehow the 7? I understand the dilemma you're in. So we have a legal non-conforming situation. We can't prove that fence isn't legal non-conforming, right?
So
I think we consider it legal non-conforming and you guys just decide where you want it to drop to 4 feet, right?
Or let me, maybe I can jump in here because
Go
it
ahead.
seems we could just delete all the references to the fencing from the reso.
You could. That was my other thought.
That was my thought because the project does not include the fence. The project does not include the fence. And I understand why staff brought that in. However,
well, we've talked about
just delete.
Yeah. And I think in the future going forward, we're going to make we've just been swamped. There are ways for us to do further research on these fences that we just didn't have time to do. Like we get the handwritten tax assessor's records and sometimes that'll talk about a fence height. You know what I mean? But in this case, it's a legal non-conforming situation that nobody's complained about since at least I've been here in 1986. So it's obviously not creating any visibility problems and it's not annoying any neighbor, right? So I like Mimi's idea of just leaving it alone and
May respond. Yeah, I think the concern is not this particular design. The concern is the precedent. So if this solution works, what was proposed, that we exclude the references to the fence from this application and we leave the existing as is, compliant or none, we don't care so much. The neighbors don't have a problem with it. There is no specific problem that I can see in this single use of it. Then it does not set a precedent, and that would alleviate my concern.
And anyone that came in to say, hey, there's a 7-foot fence there, why can't I have a 7-foot fence, right? We would just say.
Because we never approved it.
Yeah, it existed.
20 years ago?
Yeah.
Well, and just to the point that, when we do design review, we have the ability with design review to look at the project in its total. So we could, from the standpoint of design review, address the fence. So because the fact that they're doing the work outside of the fence in this application doesn't mean that we can't look at the fence as a part of design review. So it could come in under design review. So I just wanted to clarify that. But how we address that as a commission is a different thing. So I guess I will go ahead.
I'd like to ask the applicant something before we go further. What this side front yard on Baywood, the landscape plans are a little bit nondescript. What's actually going to happen to the north of the door and entryway there?
North of the door towards the Baywood side.
Please.
Yes, please.
Thanks.
The north of the house towards the Baywood side in that low fence front area?
No, so behind the tall fence.
Behind the tall fence?
Yeah.
Oh, we have like a rose garden, planting, like it's grass and like other plants and flowers and stuff like that. things like that.
Is that all staying after construction? There's some to be determined plants.
Some of it is
located
going to
over
be,
there.
yeah, it's going to, I mean, the idea is to like shift that around and beautify it in some way, but it's to be determined. But that's the overall plan. My wife plants her flowers and stuff. And so we were hoping to, and then we have little kids and a dog and they play in that area as well. Because the backyard of this property was so consumed by the pool, which is part of why we're willing to give part of that pool away to like be able to have the cars. And then that kind of leaves that side yard as our safe play area for our kids. So that's kind of what we're hoping to use it for.
All the more reason to keep the fence.
So I'd just like to make a comment.
Sure.
So project's great, design's great. I'm in full support of, sounds like you're adapting to your new needs and whatnot. It all seems great. I do think that the fence is a detriment to the neighborhood. I just want to say that. I think it's interesting that it's existing and that you're not touching it in this project. So that it just complicates things because of what it says to future projects that we would have to discuss as well. I do think that the project would be better if if your gate, if you would, slid to the south back down to that door. It would be better for the neighborhood. It would be better project. Doesn't sound like it would be better for your use. Although, in my neighborhood, there's lots of kids playing out in low fenced yards and it's not a problem. But I'm not right on the bicycle thoroughfare either, which I respect your current situation there. So it is a design issue for me. Overall, I don't think that this issue is a detriment to the neighborhood enough that I would recommend anything be done with the existing fence.
So let me ask, the commission, it seems, in favor of the project? Would the commission feel more comfortable? I don't think it doesn't sound like there's a will to lower that fence at any point along Baywood. Would the commission be in favor of just removing any reference to that fence on Baywood from the reso? Commissioner Jansen?
Yeah, I think the concern is setting a precedence. It is not so much what we're looking at in this partially new, partially existing condition. But it could be a very big problem in a completely new project. And that's what we have to be careful with. So if we remove the reference to this fence and simple let it be as existing, I think I can support that. I cannot support approving the fence as shown on the plans at 6 foot at that location, because that would go counter to the urban design standards.
Commissioner Newton?
Yeah, and looking at that whereas clause in the resolution on page 3, and in light of what Commissioner Jansen has mentioned, I think the solution for the whereas clause number 1 would be to leave it with the references to the 7-foot fence being accepted from the approved plans, but then delete the last sentence that references condition of approval 32, and then also delete condition of approval 32. That way, the first paragraph will make it clear that we are not endorsing the fence that's depicted on the plan. But it'll be silent as to what anything else about that, right? Over.
Can you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
So the whereas
The first part of the reso.
The whereas clause on page 3, paragraph 1 under, it's the first whereas clause that refers to the application and the plans. And it says the project is approved with the exception of the 7-foot fence. And so I suggest that we keep that language that says the plan is approved with the exception of the 7-foot fence. But we delete the last sentence of that whereas clause that says the 7-foot high fencing depicted shall be reduced to a maximum of 6 feet in height as specified in condition of approval 32. So we've just said we're not approving the 7-foot high fence, but that's all we've said about the fence. And then we would delete the condition 32.
I like that.
Can we add the word existing before the 7-foot high fence?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Okay.
In that way, we're not setting any precedent.
We're mentioning that we're not approving it. We're being very clear that we're not approving it, but we're just being silent about what that non-approval then means.
So let me ask this question. Would it make more sense just to delete it from that first, any reference to the fence from that first whereas? As well as the endings?
So here for staff,
is to leave it as accepted from approval, right? If you approve the plans and the plans included a 7-foot fence, then you're implying that you're approving the 7-foot fence. If you leave the language the way it is, you're specifically saying you're approving all the plans except for that 7-foot fence. We're not approving that.
so as a staff person, I think you should leave it in because if it, let's say some new neighbor moves in, okay, happens all the time. I hate that fence, blah, blah, blah. We will have a record that, yes, it was there when the planning commission took action on this major remodel. So we're going to say, unless that neighbor, it's just more in the record because right now there's nothing in the record about the 7-foot fence. There's just nothing, right? And we deal with this all the time with all kinds of stuff, retaining walls. And I'm like, I don't know how that thing got there. It's just like, your guess is as good as.
Is the rest of the commission okay with that approach? Okay, so do I have a motion?
I can make a motion. Let me go back. I'd like to move on resolution 2023-03 for approving the application 23-03 for design review permit, front setback variance and combined side yard setback variance and a compact parking space variance for an interior exterior remodel and site renovation at 121 Lansdale Avenue with 2 corrections as mentioned before on page 3. After the first whereas, first paragraph, we will change the language to read with the exception of the existing 7-foot high fence depicted, that comes in 2 times, and deletion of the last sentence, the 7-foot high fencing depicted shall be reduced to a maximum of 6 feet. And then there is a second mention of that fence. Remind me which section that was at the very end of the resolution.
Of approval 32.
Number 32. What did we decide? We decided to delete that.
Correct.
Yeah. So with those 2 corrections, I'll motion to approve this.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Jansen,
Yes.
Kelly,
Aye.
Fregoso,
Aye.
Newton,
Aye.
Chair Swift.
Aye. So the motion carries. There is a 10-day appeal process information at the planning department. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Good luck.
Chair, if I may, I will need to excuse me from the next item on agenda, 139 Forest, due to proximity.
Thank you. We'll call you when you can come back. Can we have the staff report? And can we get Commissioner Newton back?
Okay, the project includes installation of an interior stairway to connect the upper two living levels with a new entryway, storage room, and workroom that will be created on the first undeveloped floor level of the house. The dilapidated exterior front stairway to the second floor will be removed and a smaller front deck will replace the entry deck at the front of the house. A small deck is proposed off the second bedroom on the west side of the structure, and a 400 square foot carport is proposed along Forest Avenue at the front of the site. Project requires the approval of a conditional use permit due to the site's non-conforming size and width. A front setback variance because the carport, in order to be accessible, must be located within the front yard setback. And in order to minimize excavation of the site, locating it closer to the front property line decreases the amount of excavation that's required. And it requires a combined side yard setback variance for the deck and the carport, which will be 5 feet from one side, and the deck's going to encroach and maintain only I think a 13-foot setback. The minor exterior changes to the structure will have a minimal impact on neighboring development, and the provision of 2 more parking spaces on private property will be a benefit to the neighborhood. The fire department has reviewed the site plan, and their one special condition for this project is that the fire lane has to be marked and signed prior to the project final inspection. And based on our ability to recommend findings for the variances and the encroachment permit, one wall of the carport will have to project into the Forest Avenue right of way a little bit, just to hold back the hillside. We're recommending that you approve the project by adopting resolution number 2023-4. And that would conclude our report.
Do any commissioners have questions for staff?
Could you be more explicit on what would be projecting into the right of way?
And if you're talking, could you use your mic?
Yes, sorry, I'm starting to get tired. Yeah, so the eastern wall of the carport will encroach approximately 2 feet into the Forest Avenue right of way. And I think that's depicted on, oops, I'll tell you what page. Oh my, maybe you changed the plans. Did you change the plans on me? You did. Okay, so thank you for pointing that out. The encroachment permit is no longer required because the wall is going to be flush with the front property line. So we'll have to eliminate any reference to that.
With the fire truck turnout?
I don't. No, I don't think so. The fire truck turnout's it had nothing to do with it. You just decided to, but how are you going to retain does this meet up with a neighboring wall or?
Is
Okay.
this on the record? So, some of you are on mic, some of you weren't on mic.
I'm on a mic. Oh, I see. You need to get up. Yeah.
It's very confusing what's being said.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. So the applicant decided without bringing it to my attention, bad Kent, or maybe you didn't, I don't remember, to have the wall, that's 2 foot section that was going to flare towards the street, right? It was going to be at an angle. He decided instead to pull it back and meet up with the neighbor's fence. Or is it a wall or a fence at the neighbor? It's a wall.
They have a small retaining wall.
Yeah. And that actually is better. It just opens it up, the visibility backing in and out of that's better for the carport. People getting into and out of the carport.
Can you tell us which page you were looking at when you noticed that?
Yes. Page 1. The problem is, I think there might be, no, page 1. It's like, the last 4 pages are 1. The last 4 pages of the plans are shown as 1. Go 4 pages in. And it shows the site plan of the carport with the eastern wall flush with the property line. The little part that bends back.
On the renderings on 1.
So where the stairwell is on that rendering?
No, I agree. Look at the third from the last page 1, and you'll see the wall.
I don't see it very well on that.
It's on the opposite side of the carport from the access stairway, Mimi. That little portion of the wall, but it's not.
Does the drawing you're looking at have a title? The page you're looking at?
It's page 1, and it the last 2 pages of the report. It's called car turning radius. So it's not the first page, it's the last pages, but it's 1.
I think mine are in different order than yours, but car turning radius is very helpful. Thank you.
So, Linda, my question on that relates to the fire department comments and conditions on page 7. And that's where it says the original submittal had the access stairs and a portion of the carport roof projecting slightly into the public right of way. The fire department indicated these improvements would have to be removed for the required 20-foot wide and 40-foot long fire truck staging space, and the applicant revised the plans and submitted them. So is that where the plans, those revisions were just pulled everything back?
Correct. And I physically took them to the fire department to show it to them so that I could get a response in a timely fashion that they're good with it.
They signed off.
Yes, they did. They just want it marked in the field, however it meet their requirements. I've seen them require striping on the road, red striping on the road. And then sometimes they just require a sign that says no parking on the other side of the street, right? That says this, you can't park here. This is a fire lane. So it's really up to them what they require. And we just make sure that it's in place prior to the project final.
Basically that 20 by 40 foot is going to go in that to the right
in front of the neighbor's driveway. Yeah.
But it's not, my question was because the neighbor has stairs and a driveway going up. So my question was, is the 20 by 40 foot?
It's shown on, she shows it on one of the pages.
Does it impact the driveway of the neighbors?
If there's an emergency, I think that they might have some difficulty getting in and out of their driveway, but it's only used in an emergency.
Right. But I just wanted to know if it was.
I'd have to look at it again. Let me look at it real quick. Do you remember what page that you, here it is. I found it. Yeah. So I think it will block access to her driveway, but it's just used in an emergency. Yeah.
If a car is parked there, but we're being told that no parking in that area. So, yeah, no parking.
And I assume the language or whatever that's going to go on that area once it's finished would be like no parking, fire turnout, or some.
Fire lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So no revocable encroachment permit then.
That's correct.
All right.
Got out of one.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, no other questions for staff at this time. Then I'm going to ask the applicant to step up and talk about your project if you wish to, anything you wish to say, and then be there for any questions we have. Thanks.
Not much. I mean, most of what I have to say was written in the letters that were included in the package. I guess what I could say is that what we are doing is basically, with a flourish of language, bringing a house that was empty for almost 10 years back to life. So we're moving through it in stages and just trying to create a house that is livable and comfortable and usable for our family. That's basically it.
And I remember when you came before the planning commission before for the other work you did on the house, and a lot of letters of support from your neighbors. Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
Just a comment. I think you've done a really smart approach to improvements at the house, and it looks like it just gets more and more livable and definitely going in the right direction.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. So seeing no public in the room, is there anyone on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Thank you. So I will bring it back to the commission for discussion on this item and/or a motion.
Yep, I just already flagged the places in the resolution that referenced the revocable encroachment permit. So happy to include that in a motion if no one else has comments.
Through the chair, I like this project very much. It's very straightforward. I'd be happy to hear a motion.
Great. I move to approve resolution number 2023-04, a resolution of the Fairfax Planning Commission approving application number 23-04 for a conditional use permit, strike the words revocable encroachment permit, tree removal permit, and a front yard and combined side yard setback variances for a minor remodel and construction of a 2-car carport at 139 Forest Avenue with the following changes. Striking revocable encroachment permit from the title, striking the revocable encroachment permit from the second whereas clause on that first page. And then on page 6, striking paragraph 23 and renumbering paragraph 24. And in the resolution at the bottom of page 6, striking the revocable encroachment permit.
Do I have a second?
I second your motion.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Jansen. Oh, he's not here. Kelly.
Aye.
Fregoso,
Aye.
Newton,
Aye.
Chair Swift.
Aye. Motion carries and there is a 10-day appeal process. Thank you.
Commissioner Jansen has returned.
So if we could have our last item, 64 Mountain View.
Okay. So this project consists of remodel, expansion, and legalization of unpermitted work on a developed residential site. If approved, the one-story, 512 square foot, one-bedroom, one-bathroom residence built in 1934 would be expanded, remodeled, and unpermitted work would be legalized, resulting in a two-story, 1,318 square foot, two-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom residence with 3 parking spaces along the property frontage. Project requires the approval of a Hill Area Residential Development Permit because it's a 50% remodel and it's in a landslide hazard zone. It requires a design review permit, a revocable encroachment permit, a driveway width variance, a compact parking space variance, and minimum and combined side yard setback variance to allow parking within the side yards. The town engineer has visited the site, reviewed the geotechnical report for the project and the plans, and found that the site can be developed as proposed to avoid geologic, hydrologic, or seismic hazards. The design will fit in the site and with the character of the surrounding neighborhood. The required findings can be made for the requested discretionary permits. And therefore, we're recommending that you approve the project by adopting resolution 2023-06. And I did have some corrections. I talked with the fire department yesterday afternoon, and they have decided to remove the requirement that a 20 by 40 foot staging area be placed along the frontage of this property because they do not want to encroach onto the neighbor's parking across the street. In their opinion, after they went out again and looked at it, they think it's more important to maintain the parking, and they're able to get up and down this street. So we need to remove that from the resolution. And the rest of their conditions remain in effect, though. And that would conclude my report.
I had a quick question for you, Linda. Looking at the reso, number 32 and 33 on page 7 seem somewhat duplicative.
Oh, yeah, I have a note that I wanted to remove 31. 32 and 33. Oh, I see. 30.
Because they both talk about the sprinkler system required.
Yeah, they are. Let's remove one of them. Which one would you want to remove? Do you care?
No.
Okay, let's remove 32. I don't think we need to say it's in a wildland urban interface, right? That's not really that's not all that's driving the condition for.
I mean,
sprinklers.
33 seems more specific as to the requirements. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I thought you mentioned you wanted to remove another one.
Yeah, but never made it. It didn't make it to the reso.
Oh, it didn't. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions for staff on this item? Okay, not hearing any. Is the applicant on Zoom by any chance?
I do see the applicant online. And if she would like to talk, she is unmuted. Go ahead, Lydia.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, hi. Hi. My name is Lydia, and I have been working really hard with Linda on this project. This is my first little home in Fairfax after a divorce. And I love Fairfax. I've lived here now for about 7 or 8 years and have raised 3 girls. And the youngest one is going off to college in the fall. And this is sort of my little home in Fairfax to stay in, retire in. And I love the town. The reason I'm here is because I love the culture and the small homes and the feeling of Fairfax. And I'm trying to maintain that in this home. And I hope that you can see that. I'm not trying to build anything massive. I took a very dilapidated structure and I'm trying to do everything by the book and make it really cute. And I'm actually thinking about doing a butterfly garden in the front. I'm trying to go by the book basically here. And I've spent a lot of time with engineers to make sure that the house doesn't fall down the slope. And I've met with Linda many times to make sure that I'm following the rules. So I don't know what else to say. That's pretty much my story.
Thank you. Does anyone on the commission have questions for the applicant? No, thank you, Lydia.
Thank you for your time.
Anyone in the public on Zoom?
I see no other hands raised.
Okay, I'll close public comment, bring it back to the commission for discussion.
I really don't have any comments. I like the project. I understand where it's sitting and why the choices are made the way they are. I'm also very happy to see that there are still people who can hand draw. Quite unusual. They're nice drawings. I'm supportive of the project the way it stands. That's where I am.
I will ditto that comment.
I'd like to say that this might be my favorite type of project in Fairfax. I'm familiar with the house. I used to walk up and down that hill often, and it's a house that is notable. And I think it's fantastic that you're making it anew. I did the same thing with a house in Fairfax, and it was a wonderful project, and it'll be great for the town. I'm in full support of the project.
Anyone else? No. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion. Let me scroll to the right page. I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-06 for approving the application 23-08 for a hill area residential development permit, design review permit, revocable encroachment permit, driveway width variance, compact parking space variance, and a minimum and combined side yard setback variance for the remodel and expansion of an existing single-family residence at 24 Mountain View Road, including legalization of unpermitted work, with one correction in the resolution to strike item number 32 on page 7 because it's duplicate.
And if I may add to that, deleting 31 as well.
Agreed.
Right. And you said 24 Mountain View, so I'm going to correct you to say 64 Mountain View. And I'll second.
Okay, second Newton, and I'll call the roll. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Fregoso,
Yes.
Jansen,
Yes.
Kelly,
Aye.
Newton,
Aye.
Chair Swift.
Aye. So motion carries. There is a 10-day appeal process, and information on that can be gathered from the planning department. Thank you, Lydia. Okay, now we're gonna go on to minutes.
Please tell me we're going to deal with October minutes. Nobody found anything like drastically wrong.
So I've got corrections for
Corrections are good.
the October 27th minutes. So they had said that there were no public comments, but we actually did have a public comment that was Rick Hamer concerning the request for more clarity on substantive remodel thresholds and design review. And then on page 4, third paragraph, talking about Fairfax lumber. Which I can't find now, but it stated that Augie was speaking for Fairfax Lumber and it
was
wasn't.
Charlie. Yep.
Right. So if you can
I
put
found
that
that. Yep, I
name
just
in there,
found it.
those were the only corrections I had on October 27th. Did anybody else have corrections on October 27th? Okay, so I'll go on to
January.
the January meeting. So move my comment that Commissioner Green resigned above the approval of the agenda, because I think we did that before we did anything else at the meeting. And
Got it.
And then on the bottom, we were opening, I was opening public hearing on the consent calendar. So those bottom 3 lines, if we could change that to reference that there weren't any public hearing comments, or leave it out on
Oh,
the,
I see. So
yeah.
that needs to move up to under public comments, and then there were no public comments. Got it. You
Right.
in the meeting. Okay.
right, and then
you
delete
close
those 3 lines at the bottom.
Has she ever done that way before? Done those 3 things that way?
No,
Okay.
no.
I'm not sure. How do we feel about her doing that? What is she?
Well, I think she was, because it was the consent calendar, so she may just have gotten confused.
Okay. Okay, I got that.
Okay. And then on page 3,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not finding it. There was a place in here where Commissioner Newton's, at the top under the first bullet, it says Commissioner Newsom.
On page 3?
Yeah, at the top under that first bullet where it was the vote.
Wait, are you in the January 26th minutes?
I hope
It's
so.
referring to the minor corrections made by Commissioner Newsom. There's just a misspelling. It should be.
I know. I'm on page 3 and I'm not finding it. Am I cracking up? I might just be tired. Oh, yes, I see it now. Okay.
Top of the page.
Yes, I got it. Okay.
And then on page 5, on the motion, Under those bullets, it says motion to continue this application to allow the applicants to work with staff. If you would change that to motion to continue this application not to exceed 90 days.
And then go on to allow the applicant.
Right,
Okay,
right.
got it. I got it.
And those were my corrections. Did anybody have corrections on the yes?
For January, just in the role, I believe Commissioner Jensen's the vice chair.
Oh, correct. Good eye.
Any other corrections to the January minutes? Okay, do we have a motion to,
I'll move to approve both the October 2022 and January 2023 minutes as corrected by Chair Swift and Commissioner Pfeffer.
we have a second?
Second.
All right. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Fregoso,
Yes.
Jansen,
Yes.
Kelly,
Aye.
Newton,
Yes.
Chair Swift.
Yes. Okay, moving on to commissioner comments and requests. Do we have any commissioner comments and requests? Can I ask for an adjournment? We're adjourned.
I so move.